Hey everyone, welcome back to the Pilot's Wife podcast. This is Amy McLaren and episode 43. Phew, it's been a crazy week this week. We've had a really complex problem and solved it in one evening, and I've had lots of crazy back and forth pickups and drop-offs and all that sort of stuff to do with the kids. It's been nuts. But there's one thing that I really wanted to share with you that I found, kind of stumbled across, which is about a really simple intervention that involves watching movies that makes a huge difference to the divorce rate of married couples. So here's the question. For those of us who don't have a picture-perfect relationship, who don't put our highlights reel on social media and pretend it's all rosy, where can I get some down-to-earth inspiration without any religious barriers? Who can give me real-life encouragement, help me be a better spouse, and tell me how to get an even more enriching relationship without becoming a doormat? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. I'm Amy McLaren, and this is the Pilot's Wife podcast. I have to admit I've struggled to do the episode today because there's a lot going on. There's been a lot going on, as I mentioned. I've been doing a bit of problem solving, helping other couples do it. Been doing that with Josh. And my younger child, she hasn't been sleeping very well because she wants to toilet train at night, but she's not ready. And so she's been getting us up, particularly me, a lot. It's been hard to think. So it's been a bit of a struggle. But I did want to tell you about this cool research that I found because I think it's pretty amazing and pretty simple. So there was a study done in 2014 with 174 couples who had been married between 1 and 3 years. And so they divided the groups into 4. One was a control group who had no intervention, and then one of the groups had a series of lectures and things for how to do kind of reflective listening. And then they had practice sessions and they had homework and stuff over a month. Then there was another program that learned about compassion and acceptance training. So it's kind of like ways to learn how to work together as a team, listening together as a friend, practicing random acts of kindness and stuff like that. So that was another group. And then the third group, they were assigned homework assignments over a month for about 20 hours. Hardly any of them were with a therapist, but they were homework groups to do just as a couple, where they watched a movie and then they talked about the movie afterwards in terms of how the people in the movie dealt with their relationships. So over a month they watched 5 movies and they had to then kind of answer some questions about it, a list of 12 questions that they were given. So it was things like, were they able to open up to each other and tell each other how they really felt, or did they just tend to snap at each other and get angry? Did they try and use humour to keep things from getting nasty? Things like that. So they had these questions. And then they just would kind of discuss the answers together. And what they found is that with the control group, they had a 24% divorce rate after the fact. So they kept in contact with them, obviously, and saw who got divorced later. And all of the other groups that had some kind of intervention had an 11% divorce rate. And it didn't make any difference whether they'd done the movie thing or one of the other 2 ones. So simply just watching movies and then discussing things was just as effective. And they talk about the results, that the results suggest that many couples already possess relationship skills. They just need to remember to put them into practice. So these movies and the discussion questions kind of just remind them to put this into practice. So I talked in the episode last week about increasing objectivity in relationships when you're trying to solve a problem, and that the biggest kind of skill that you can sort of form is to be able to remove yourself from the emotion and just talk about the issue, like just see the objectivity in it, and almost just like learn how to pick out what's going on in amongst all the emotion. Like, yes, you do stuff that makes each other angry, but it's kind of like, why are you doing that stuff? And there's a whole lot of explanations that are not that they're trying to annoy you on purpose. They are other reasons. And so I think with this study about watching the movies, it's kind of the same thing. So you're watching other people's like their movies, but, made up relationship struggle. And you can use that as like an anchor point to say, I can see how they're doing that badly, and I admit I do that too. And then it's kind of like, it's not as bad because you're kind of, even though they're made up kind of relationship patterns, that other people do the same thing. And it kind of just reminds you that, it's not, you're not alone. And that, there's that distant kind of, you can distance yourself from it a little bit, from the emotion, and just go, oh yeah, I kind of observe myself in that. So they've got a list of 47 movies. I think it's because they've set up questions specifically for each movie. And so you can choose any of the movies in the list, and then you can get the questions from it. And I'll give you the URL is quite long, so I'm going to paste it into the notes for this episode, but also I can read it out to you, but it's long. So anyway, it's rochester.edu, because it's from the University of Rochester, /news/ and then it's kind of a sentence where every word has a hyphen in between it. So divorce rate cut and I won't say the hyphens all the way. So divorce rate cut in half for couples who discussed relationship movies. So if you type that all in, but with hyphens between each word, then /movie-list.html. That's the way, the place to go, where you can get the list and where you can get the questions for each movie. So I encourage you to try that. I'm definitely going to be watching some of these movies and checking out what the questions are. So anyway, I hope you have a good week, and I will talk to you next week. Ka kite.